Across Pokemon Emerald, you fight over 800 times against trainers. Of those over 800 battles, only 41 are against either gentlemans, ruin maniacs, or experts. Today, I'm going to try and find out if among any of those trainers, there's one of them who can manage to get all 8 badges and get to the Elite 4. Before starting, here's the rules for how I'm going to do it. I'm going to use each of their teams and fight every team leader while using level caps. If the Pokemon is below or above the evolution level, they're going to be used using the form that should be appropriate for that point in the game. If the team cannot get past that battle, the trainer gets disqualified. Besides that, since I'm taking the role of a random trainer, I'm not going to be allowed to use many features that would make the fights easier, such as potions, heal items, or even TMs. That is, unless stated otherwise. I'll talk about that later. I'll also be using set mode for all of the battles and teaching the Pokemon their level up moves if I find them useful. With that out of the way, let's see if one of them can get to the Elite 4. Now to start, let's go with the trainer class that has the least variation between their teams, and that's the Ruin Maniacs. First up is Garrison from the Abandoned Ship, rolling with a single Sand Slash. You might think that it means that the Roxanne gym is going to be free, right? Wrong. Sandshrew doesn't even have a ground type attack yet. He only gets one at level 45, and it's Sand Tomb, which has a pathetic 15 base power. So I'm stuck with Tackle. I tried anyway, but I only managed to get past the first Geodude before I ran out of power points, dooming the rest of the fight. Next on the list is Dusty from Route 111, and he also has a single Sand Slash. But here's where it gets interesting, as he's one of the few NPCs that you can rematch with the Pokénav. Each rematch he gets stronger, but weirdly, he keeps the exact same moves the entire time, even though he could learn other ones through level up. The only thing that changes are the levels. Besides that, his Sand Slash for some reason learns Slash a level early and gets the move Dig, probably through TM. Seeing how he keeps the same moves through the 4 rematches, and I don't want a repeat of the previous trainer, I'm just going to use the Pokemon with those 4 moves throughout the whole run. Against Roxanne, the addition of Dig to Sandshrew's moveset was all he needed to win. I still went for the poison with Poison Sting just to be safe, but even if that somehow didn't work, Sandshrew also had Sand Attack. Broly though, that's where things fell apart. This fight needs everything to go right. A crit slash on Machop before he sets up too many bulk ups, bait out the super potions on Meditite without letting him get the reflect up, and then crit again on Makuhita, but exactly on the second hit to avoid the citrus berry. I tried for way too long, and got maybe 3 total crits across all of my attempts, so I decided to just call it there. Then there's Brian, also from Route 111, and he has 2 Sandshrews with no Dig. I already spent 7 minutes watching a single Sandshrew fail against Roxanne, so I'm not doing that again with 2 of them. I've got better things to do, like, for example, try the next trainer. Foster from Route 105 has the exact same team. However, both of his Pokemon know the move Dig. Since I have no way of knowing his other moves for the future, I'm just going to give him access to Dig on all of them. No need to test Roxanne, so let's move on to Broly. I still need some luck on Machop, since instead of Slash, Sandshrew now has to use Scratch. But I only need for Machop to not use Bulk Up on turn 1. Meditite is still the same easy fight, so last is Makuhita. I need for Poison Sting to get the poison on turn 1. It's only a 30% chance, but if I get that, thanks to the extra turns of Dig, the team is able to stall for long enough and do the right amount of damage with Dig to defeat him. For Watson, as if having 2 ground types with Dig wasn't enough, they evolved into Sand Slash, making the fight even easier. I got unlucky against Magneton, hitting myself in confusion 4 times in a row, but even with that, I managed to easily win. As for Flannery, both Numel and Slugma fall to a single Dig. Camerupt needs a bit of extra damage from Slash, but it's also not an issue. Torkoal, however, is a problem. She's able to one-shot with Overheat my entire team. And that's without Sunny Day. My Sand Slashes couldn't do anything. Sand Slashes? Sand Slashes? Sand Slash? They get O-Code. I would need for Overheat to miss, but even then, my attacks would leave her on range of healing, so I don't think it would really matter. So unfortunately, even though they have the type advantage, Foster only manages to get 3 badges. Chip's team from Route 120 is nearly identical to Foster's, a Sandshrew and a Sandslash with Dig, but he adds one thing, a Boltoy with Sandstorm. His stats are terrible and he doesn't evolve until level 36, but maybe that's enough to make a difference. I'm skipping to Flannery since we know how the other fights go. The battle requires a lot of luck, but only on the move choice. As long as nobody uses Sunny Day, I've got a decent shot. When I reach Torkoal, I use Dig with the first Sandslash, then either save him or Ancient Power with Boltoy, depending on if Sologma set up a light screen, and then do some chip damage with Slash using the second Sandslash to finally defeat Torkoal with a Dig. All of this possible thanks to Torkoal now being at -2 special attack. It's quite a bit of luck to be able to win, but not as much as trying to get a crit or something like that. Going into Norman, Sandslash can take care of both Spinda and Vigoroth, but falls to Linoon, to which I send Boltoy and have him use Self-Destruct to OHKO him. Unfortunately, even though the second Sandslash has Dig and can use it to abuse Slacking Struant's missing turns, he doesn't have enough firepower to defeat him, much less when Norman still has all of his healing items. So while it would have been cool to see Sandslash defeat Slacking using only Dig, that's just not possible. Last Ruin Maniac is Andres, from Route 105, another Pokénav rematch trainer. His final team is 2 Sandslash, Cess, and a Nosepass. Still no Dig, which doesn't look promising, but I still tried to see if the team had a chance. Okay, so I spent over 20 minutes doing this fight. I had to spam Defense Curl and Sand Attack with both Sandshrews and even use all of their Scratch power points. That wasn't enough to defeat the Geodudes, but luckily Nosepass was able to defeat the last one and Roxanne's own Nosepass, although it needed a bit of luck from some crits. I got a win on the first try, so I guess I'll count this one as a pass. I then tried Broly, but not having Dig on Sandshrew really screws over the team. They can get past matchup, but that's only because of Sand Attack. And even then, they cannot do much after that against Makuhita. Bit of a sad note to end the Ruin Maniac section, but now let's move on to the next trainer class, which is going to be the Gentleman's, starting with Everett from the Trick House. His team? A single Wobbuffet. Great. Look, I gave the Roxanne battle a couple of tries, but it's just not possible. I would need for the 2 Geodudes to crit so that I can get a one-shot with counter and then hope to get crit by Nosepass at the right moment to prevent her from healing. That's just not going to happen, so let's move on. Off to a great start, next is Clifford from the Musteep Gym, who has a single Girafarig, which is actually a pretty strong single-stage Pokemon, so he might make it pretty far, especially since Girafarig starts with Confusion, which makes him able to two-shot Roxanne's Geodude after the heal with a potion. Nosepass takes a bit longer since she's way bulkier. It takes a few more hits to defeat her, and it was a close fight, being 1 or 2 hits away from being knocked out. But in the end, Girafarig manages to win. For Broly, having his tap super effective move certainly helps, but if Medicite manages to set up a light screen, then the normal typing of Girafarig starts becoming an issue. Luckily, he doesn't always go for the move, meaning that Girafarig can safely sweep the rest of Broly's team. However, as you probably guessed, Watson's Magneton puts an end to Clifford's run. Girafarig just has no way of doing decent damage to him. Is what you probably thought would have happened, but the truth is, he couldn't even make it past Electrike. Voltorb hits with either Spark or Shockwave and then self-destructs, leaving Girafarig on life support. After that, Electro can come in and finish off the job with Quick Attack. I didn't even get to see the Magneton matchup, though it wouldn't have mattered, to be honest. Nate from the Musteep Gym has a single Spoink, and Spoink's only attack is Psywave, a move that does random damage between 1 HP and 1.5 times the user's level. I tested it, and even if Spoink high roll with the move 100% of the time, it will still not be enough to beat Roxanne. The last solo trainer is Thomas from the SS title with a Zangoose. He's got Sword Stance and Quick Attack, so maybe there's a chance? Nope. Even at plus its attack, Zangoose cannot one-shot the Geodudes. Even worse, it left them on healing range. He just takes too much damage while setting up, so while there might be a chance of defeating the first 2 Pokemon, Nosepass would be impossible. Next on the list is Mika from the SS title as well. and he has two Manectrics. Since Electric's best strategy against Roxanne is setting up Howls using Quick Attack and hoping that her Pokémons get paralyzed by static, I think it's safe to say, without trying, that he's not able to beat her. The last gentleman is Walter from Road 121, another Pokénap rematch. His final team is Linoon, Golduck, and Manectric. Like with Dusty, these Pokémon keep the same movesets through each rematch. Headbutt, Zen Attack, Odor Sleuth, and Fury Swipes for Linoon, and Quick Attack, Spark, Odor Sleuth, and Roar for Manectric. Golduck was added on the last battle, so I can confirm if he would have kept the same movesets throughout the other ones. Anyways, I'm going to do the same as with Ruin Maniac Dusty and keep the movesets for the other two. It didn't matter though, as my Pokemon just dealt no damage to Roxanne's first Geodude. I might have had a chance if I could get one more level on Psyduck and give him Confusion, but at this level cap, it's just not happening. The final trainer category is the Experts, and to start off, we have Timothy from Road 115. He has a single Hariyama that knows the move Dig, probably taught via TM. He didn't need it for Roxanne though, as having Vital Throw, a stab 70 base power super effective move, was enough to defeat her whole team. Opposite to that, however, was Broly. Makuhira is able to easily beat Machop and Meditite, and even get him to waste all of his potions. But with Broly's Makuhira having a Citrus Berry and Bulk Up for setup, my Makuhira just can't keep up. Now, the next trainer is a bit of an odd one, as this trainer is technically an expert, but not really. It's Winstraight Vicky from the house north of Mobile. She's the grandmother of the family, and while her trainer class is Winstraight, she uses the sprite of an expert, so I'm just going to count her as one. Anyways, her team is a single Meditite, but this one has the move High Jump Kick, a move it shouldn't learn until level 32. But here it is at level 18, so I'm just going to assume that she got it using some not so legal methods, and I'm going to take full advantage of that by giving her the move right off the bat. No need to fight Roxanne, so let's move on to Broly. Machop was easy with High Jump Kick, but oddly enough, his Meditite gave me a bit of trouble. He went right away for both Reflect and Light Screen, so I had to slowly knock him out with Confusion while also trying to waste his potions if possible. It took me a while, but I was able to do just that. When Makuhira came out, I was expecting to leave him on a sliver, but turns out, setting up a Meditate against Machop let me be able to one-shot him. I then went for Watson, but there's a bit of a problem. Meditite doesn't outspeed Magneton or one-shot him. She takes so much damage between Voltor's Spark and Magneton's Sonic Boom that by the time she reaches Manectric, she's easily defeated. Shelby from Mount Chimney is a Pokénap rematch trainer that has a Medicham and a Hariyama, but she doesn't do much to her team besides evolving her Pokémon and getting some levels. Roxanne's obviously free with Makuhira, so let's jump to Broly, and it was a one-sided beatdown. Meditite with Confusion destroyed his team. I did get a crit on Makuhira, but I don't think it really mattered. As for Watson, I had to sacrifice Meditite to Voltorb by baiting him into using Self-Destruct. I then had to get a bit lucky with the newly evolved Hariyama by not getting fully paralyzed too many times, especially because Vital Throw wasn't a one-shot on Magneton. It takes some luck, but the fight is pretty doable. Also, because the trainers always use the first ability on their Pokemon, that meant that Hariyama's ability was Thick Fat instead of Guts, so the paralysis didn't boost his damage. In the case of Flannery, Meditite got the move Calm Mind, so I tried setting up with the move and then sweeping with Confusion, but it didn't really work. Meditite is just way too frail. The best she could do was defeat both Slugma and Numel and get Camera Up to half, moment in which I sent Hariyama, but while she did good damage to Camerupt, Vital Throw didn't do that much to Torkoal. Even worse, she kept using Body Slam, which meant that Hariyama could easily get paralyzed. Flannery didn't really need that though, as in the fight between Vital Throw and Body Slam, she ended up winning. Frederick from Route 123 has a Makuhira and a Machoke. The last team couldn't beat Flannery, so I'm not optimistic, but let's see. The fight against Broly went pretty much the same as one with the team of a single Makuhira up to the point where I reached Broly's own Makuhira. Mine got defeated after landing an arm thrust, so here's where the change comes in. Because Makuhira is a heavy Pokemon, Loki was doing really good damage. enough to two-shot him if he didn't set up a pull cap. But even if he did, Machop had a set damage move in Seismic Toss. I did get a crit with Makuhira's arm thrust, but like I said, Machop could easily beat Broly's Makuhira anyways. Watson went also the same as last time, so let's skip to Flannery, which, once again, also went like the one with the Hariyama and Meditai team. And like that team, Hariyama and Machoke are not able to defeat Torkoal. I mean, they technically can, but it needs to get unbelievably lucky with their move choice, while also having a track not making me miss too many turns, and paralysis from Body Slam not being too much of a hindrance. I tried with Machoke a couple of times, but it wasn't really working, so I decided to just go and evolve him into Machamp, which did make the fights a bit more consistent. It's difficult to say, but I'll call this one a victory. It may just be because I want to see how the team does against Norman, but I believe that the team can beat Flannery somewhat consistently as long as it doesn't get too unlucky. As for the Norman fight, it went as expected. Fake out an arm thrust for Spinda, one vital throw for Vigoroth, and another one for Lainoon. For slacking, I spammed Zen Attack to force him to use Feint Attack instead of counter. That way, I could safely beat him without risking getting one shot in return. Next was Winona, and you can probably guess how it went. I managed to beat Swablu and Skarmory, but that was it. The Flame weakness is awful for these fights, and only having Smelling Salts and Fake Out as my non-fighting moves certainly didn't help. It was expected that this team was going to fall to her, but I'm surprised that it even managed to get this far. Finally, moving on from the mono fighting type teams is Connor from Route 133, who has a Chinchou and Hariyama. The team has some potential, but Chinchou's best water type move is Water Gun until level 50, so I don't see it getting past Flannery. For Broly, I started with Chinchou and used Water Gun to defeat Machop, which worked great as it didn't get him to heal even though it was a 3-shot. For Meditite, I attacked carefully to get him to waste his potions, and I did so with a combination of a low-power flail and Water Gun. Finally for Makuhira, the priority was to paralyze him. After that, I got a couple of shots before fainting. I then sent my Makuhira and I easily finished him off with Arm Thrust. With Watson, the strategy was simple. Use Chinchou to bait self-destruct and then sweep like usual with Hariyama. It went even better as Chinchou managed to defeat Electrike and paralyze Magneton, making it easier for Hariyama to defeat Watson. Now, I said at the beginning that I thought that this team wasn't going to get past Flannery, but I was shocked to see what really happened. I forgot Chinchou evolves into Lantern at level 27, and that stat boost changes everything, making it possible to one-shot Numel and Slugma and leave Camerupt with a sliver of HP. The next move then depends on what Camerupt does. If he goes for Sunny Day or Attract, I swap to Hariyama while she heals. If she doesn't, I can make her waste all of her potions by spamming Water Gun. Either way, I easily move on to Torkoal. In this attempt, I ended up swapping, so I went into the fight with Hariyama. I started with knockoff so Torkoal can't ignore the overheat debuff, and then just went for as much damage as Hariyama could do, knowing that he alone wasn't enough to win. When he went down, I sent Lantern, and with the combination of paralysis from Thunder Wave, Water Gun, and Spark when the sun was up, I was able to easily take down Torkoal. As for Norman, it went exactly the same as Frederick's run. Just have Hariyama sweep his entire team. The only difference was that I had Lantern use Thunder Wave to make it even safer to defeat Slaking when combined with Hariyama's Zen Attack. And then there's Winona. Hariyama is able to defeat Swablu and leave Skarmory on low HP, enough so that Lantern can come in and safely finish him off, but the problem is that Winona then sends Altaria, who has both Dragon Dance and Earthquake. In the attempt you're seeing, I managed to win against Altaria thanks to both Thunder Wave and Confused Ray, and even beat both Tropius and Pelipper. However, I don't think they should really count. It's not like the team requires for Winona's Pokemon to hit themselves once or twice. No, it needs for multiple hits in that they don't get almost any move to go through. That is not a consistent strategy. That is a miracle. So, unfortunately, we have another run ended by Winona. Next is Oron from Route 125, and he has a Manectric and a Machamp. Skipping Route since Machop can obviously solo the whole gym, Broly's fight surprised me. Machop was able to solo once again the whole gym. Karate Chop was a 2-shot on his Machop, Meditite obviously did nothing besides making Broly waste his potions, and Makuhira took massive amounts of damage from low kick. Something that I haven't mentioned yet that might be the reason why it did so well is that the expert trainer class is one of the very few that has high IVs on their Pokemon, having around 25. That makes their Pokemon way stronger than the ones from something like a youngster, who has no IVs. For Watson, I used Howl to raise Electrice's attack, and it was enough for both Voltorb and Watson's Electrike, but fell to Magneton, obviously. On the attempter scene, Magneton got fully paralyzed from Electrice's Thunder Wave, which gave Machop the chance to leave him on a sliver with Low Kick and then defeat him. However, Manectric did way too much damage with Shockwave, while Karate Chop did nothing. I really wanted this one to work since both Pokemon evolved by Flannery's level cap, but I guess it wasn't meant to be. Molly from Route 133 has a Whiscash and a Meditite. I know for a fact that if this team somehow beats Norman, Winona is just going to end it. But let's see how far it gets. Against Broly, it was pretty easy. Meditite resists every move that he has. However, he does need some help from Barboach against Broly's own Meditite, since if I don't, my Meditite runs out of Confusion power points. The same could be said about Watson. Meditite managed to defeat Voltorb with Bite, but she was quickly taken out by Electrike. From there, Barboach came in and completely swept Watson's team with Magnitude. I needed some luck with the rolls, but besides Magneton and Manectric, which did pretty decent damage with Quick Attack and Sonic Boom, I was fine. I could have used Magnitude alongside Mud Slap instead, which would probably involve less luck, but either way, Barboach does pretty well on this fight. Flannery, however, is where the sweeps end. I can deal with her first 3 Pokemon, but as usual, Torkoal walls me. Barboach is one level away from Whiscash, which would be super helpful with the stat boost. But instead, I'm stuck with 2 first form Pokemon that clearly do not have enough stats to beat Torkoal. There's 2 trainers left, and the penultimate expert is Paxton from Route 132, and he has a Swallow and a Breloom. Not exactly a Flannery beating team, and it might not even clear Watson, but we'll have to see. Against Broly, it was pretty simple. Use Shroomish to deal with Machop, then fight Meditite until it needs to heal, at which point I swap to Taillow, and then defeat both Meditite and Makuhita. Like I said, pretty simple. As for Watson, it was just as easy. Swallow's Quick Attack was enough to 2-shot Voltorb and to get Electra to half before fainting. That let Breloom come in and finish off the rest of his team. I did need to not get fully paralyzed too many times, but as long as I got to land Leech Seed on the first turns, everything was fine. Especially since Mach Punch ignores the speed drop from paralysis. Flannery, however, went as bad as I expected. I got a really lucky run where Breloom managed to beat Numel, Camerupt, and Slugma, but I knew that Torkoal could easily one-shot both of my Pokemon. I could fish for Paraflinch hats, but that's not really a strategy. And even if I got it to work, I wouldn't have counted it as a victory since it involves way too much randomness. Last trainer of the video is Expert Makaila from Route 132, and she has a Roselia and Medicham. When looking at the team, the only thing that seems special about it is the Medicham, which is at level 33 even though Meditite evolves at level 37. However, something else that this trainer has is that it's the only expert that uses a potion mid-battle. The only trainer classes that use items during a fight are the Cold Trainers and the Pokemon Rangers. Expert Makaila is the only trainer that's not a part of those classes or a special name trainer that uses potions. And because of that, I'm going to allow her to use 1 potion per gym battle. Let's skip to Watson since Roselia solos Roxanne and Meditite solos Broly. I needed to set up growths for Magneton and Manectric, and Meditite was useless, so it was basically the Roselia solo run. I used Leech Seed and then Growth 2 times before defeating Voltorb, and this start was what caused the most resets, as he just kept using Spark to do damage and paralyze me. Once through, I went for 3 more growths on Electribe without using Leech Seed, since I needed to defeat him fast before he could use Leer to lower Roselia's defenses. For some reason though, he just kept going for Howl, so I defeated him without taking any damage. For Magneton, it was pure luck. Mega Drain is a 2-shot, but he likes to go for Thunder Wave and Supersonic. In this run, I got lucky and he missed Supersonic, but I don't think it would have been that much of an issue since I had a Super Potion in the back. Finally, Manectric was a 2-shot after eating his berry. For Flannery, I was expecting a devastating defeat since I only had a Grass type and a First Form. But the team really put on a fight. I started with Roselia against Numel and I just wanted to get the paralysis. I got it, but instead of just defeating me with Overheat, Flannery went for Magnitude, which gave me the chance to also get the Leech Seed before fainting. After that, I started setting up Coal Mines with Meditite. Numel got 2 crits against me in between, making me use my Super Potion, but I still managed to get all 6 Coal Mines and even be at full HP. She did get the Sunny Day up, so instead of just going for the KO with Confusion, I used Detect every other turn to stall for a bit. This allowed me to one-shot both Numel and Slugma. Kamarov was a 2-shot and he unfortunately won again for the Sunny Day, so I went into the Torkoal fight with the Sun up. However, instead of using Overheat, she went for a Body Slam that did almost half. My confusion was doing a bit over half, so the next turn, the team somehow managed to defeat Flannery. Now, as impressive as that was, there is just no way of beating Norman. I can't really set up like against the other gym leaders since Pinda has Tear Dance, Facade, and Psybeam. And if I defeat him, then all of Norman's other Pokemon are just too fast and strong. However, even if somehow, by some miracle, I managed to set up and get to his last Pokemon, Slacking is just too much of a tank. So yeah, as impressive as the Flannery fight was, there's just nothing the team can do against Norman. So, after playing through Emerald with every Gentleman, Ruin Maniac, and Expert team, here's the results. Out of 41 battles, only 21 were against different trainers. Of those 21, 14 managed to get past Roxanne, 11 defeated Broly, 7 defeated Watson, 4 defeated Flannery, and only 2 managed to beat Norman, getting beaten by Winona. The Gentleman was clearly the worst trainer class of the video. Even when 2 of the teams had more than 1 Pokemon, only 1 of them managed to get past Roxanne, and it was the team that had only a Girafarig. For the Ruin Maniacs, it only showed how awful Sandshrews' moveset is. If it doesn't have the TM for Dig, it loses to Roxanne, but if it does, it can go much further, as shown by both the team of dual Sandshrews and the team of Baltoy and 2 Sandshrews. As for the Expert teams, they did mostly pretty good, and they were honestly really fun to try out. All of them got past Roxanne, and even 5 of them got past Watson, but those were mostly because of Makuhira evolving just at his level cap and the high IVs. Kind of wish at least one of the Pokénap rematches made one of them get a team of 3 Pokemon, because I'm sure that it would have gone past Winona, and that would mean that it would finally allow for Meditite to evolve into Medicham. Anyways, did I miss anything on the video? If you think so, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.